So let's just try creating an application. So I already have the ASP.NET repository ready. I'm going to be creating a new application. Let's uncheck the create kit repository. So I want the template to be MVC, and the advantage is that there are certain inbuilt features that comes with choosing this as our base instead of choosing the empty. I am not going to be adding unit tests for today's presentation. Say okay. Takes a little bit of time to create a new project because it comes with a lot of pre-coded template information that's going to make our lives much easier. Very first thing I want to look at is look at the Solution Explorer and look at the folder structure. So if you look at the folder structure, you can see, true to the name, we have a folder for model, a folder for views, and a folder for controller. Then there is some other interesting information under app start. It's called the route config. The routing is what decides what the user wants. Like if the user is asking for a specific functionality of your application. For example, if we have two controllers, or if we have like two sets of functionality in our application, we have a home and then we have a store page. The routing is what decides which controller to invoke based upon the URL. What I'm talking about is a much simplified version of how routing works. We will look into routing a little bit later in a little bit more details, but basically it goes like this. Like if you have a URL, so if you say URL like that, what you're asking for is the home controller. That is decided by routing. Routing sits between the client and also the actual controller. The routing decides what controller to call. We do not have this website running right now, so we will not be getting anything. So the next parameter is called as the action. These are like the methods that are defined inside a controller. For example, let's look at our code. So if you look at under controller, by default, any MVC application that is created will come with a home controller. Under the home controller, all these are action methods. So there is an index method, then there is an about method and a contact method. Code is pre-written to just get this up and running. What I want to show you is how this actually works. So let us build our application. We did not write a single line of code so far. Keep that in mind. So we are building our application. Make sure you have IIS installed on your machine before trying to run this application, because it needs to be hosted in IIS. Otherwise, it will not work. So now I'm going to click on this here. That's the run the application. It's going to connect to IIS and then assign me a port number and then open up the application. So this is the default. So I want to call the home controller. So there is home, about, and contact. So I want to call the home controller. How do I know it's being called? It's very easy. So if you go to Visual Studio, right now you can see application is running. So you don't want to stop it. You want to put a breakpoint. So you go into the method where you want line 13 here. That'll put a breakpoint. Let's do that for all 3 methods. So we know when they get invoked. So you come back to your application, click on home, and it comes to the index method. So when you call a controller, the very first parameter that you have in your URL, the very first portion of your URL, like for example, if you have netflix.com, the very first portion after that part of it is the name of the controller. So here it's the home. So routing is going to look for home controller. That's what it's going to look for in the routing dictionary. So we have routing calling our home controller. So let's click continue. So now home. In the home controller, we want the method about. So there you go. It comes to about right now. So I'm going to click. I am not actually interested in the actual functionality right now at this point. For the sake of this video, I just want to show you how you can see what gets invoked. So this is the contact. So here if you come, that method is being invoked. If you see, index is the only method where we didn't have to say index. By default, the home controller by default goes to index. So now we are on contact. Let me press continue. And then we are on our application. So if you look at the URL, routing is going to look at the first part and decide the controller. The second part to decide what action method it's supposed to call in that controller.